Hi, welcome. I'm Mary Crowley, and this is The Art Show. Today I have with me Carolyn Shattuck, who is an artist who has done many different kinds of work. Carolyn, I'm so happy that you agreed to be on the show, and we'll start right in, if you don't mind, talking about what you are currently doing and are very enthusiastic about book arts.
Okay, the way my schedule works is that I do part of the year making books, usually down in the Keys. And
all right, you move to Key West
for 3 months.
Okay.
And I have a studio, very small studio down there, and that's when I make book arts. Printing requires my press, so I do printing in my studio in Rutland.
Which is larger?
Yes,
okay.
It's a lot larger. Actually, what I really have in the Keys is just a table to work with book arts, which is fine.
That's all you need.
Exactly. and then I also do painting, which I can do that either place if it's small enough. So I have 3 different components of making art.
Okay. Let's talk about what we can see here. And the first one, He Had No Words, you made because?
Okay, well, my dad was hit by a train when I was 3 years old, and in those days, nobody knew that that was a traumatic brain injury, TBI. And so he suffered with that for a long time, and then eventually he got dementia. And so he lived by himself and didn't make good decisions and was a little disorganized, to say the least, about his life. And so when he died, I did a book expressing my concern about his life and how he lived. And so this patterning here is...
Would it help to hold it up?
Sure.
Because you get one view if you look down on it. There.
Oh,
there
okay.
we go, that's it. If you look down on it, and another from the side.
Yeah. This book just got it's a pop-up, and
you want to, yes, okay, there we go. It closes, however, boom,
and
magic
pops up. There you go. You can see. And the center part is a depiction of my father's apartment. And I actually went to his apartment and drew it, and then put it into a pop-up arrangement here.
There's more there than one would think. You almost have to know the story to fully appreciate it.
And so with my father, he wasn't able to advocate and speak for himself, so that is why it's called He Had No Words.
Right. Okay, the next one, Too Much Order. Missy Delahanty went with me to Carolyn's studio and took many photographs. She panned. I don't know what she's going to decide to put with this interview, but there was a picture on the wall that I gather, Carolyn, you did before you did this one, Too Much Order. Is that right?
Yes, I did a collage of segments of other monotypes and put them together into collage arrangement. But my main...
Now, what is a collage? I like to just ask questions like that because some people don't know.
Well, it's kind of a great way to get into making art because you have a whole bunch of pieces that are not related, and you have an idea of a story or something, an image, and then you can start cutting and putting them on a board or a wall and moving them around. So you have a lot of options before you decide you're going to glue them down. So I'm
just thinking, I think that would be a wonderful way to get a frightened adult into art again. All little children seem to be artists, and then they lose it.
Yeah. It is a little intimidating to start painting. And
exactly.
You have this wet medium and then brushes, and you've got to like do something on this blank piece of paper.
And if you're not doing an abstract, maybe you're thinking, oh, I want this to look exactly like the sunset that I saw. And it may not. You may not even come close.
So you're moving parts around.
Right.
And then you can easily see how I move parts around for book arts, too.
And you can see this. Well, this is a pop-up, too.
Yes.
Do you want to show this? And I'll put it back?
Sure.
Why not? All right.
So it collapses down like this, and then it opens up like that.
Did you take a class, or did you figure this all out yourself?
No, this one I figured out by myself.
Okay.
I did not take a class for it. But I mean, I read books of how to make...
You taught yourself?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the story...
I think you're self-motivated to some extent, which some of us are not.
The story behind that is it's a narrative about Mr. and Mrs. Scaredy Pants. That's what I call them, name them. And she wants to go out, doesn't want to be in this ordered little home anymore where it's very safe and non-threatening, and she wants to go out and experience the world. But Mr. Scaredy Pants does not want to do that. And so eventually she convinces him to go out. So you can see here where their house is very neat. And
hold it up in front of you.
Right here.
Because then...
This side here, they're in their home. And
you have to hold it up.
Okay.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, right here. And so anyway, she convinces him to go outside, and they are walking around in the environment and their yard and their neighborhood. And Mr. Scaredy Pants over here, he pretty much decompensates and can't handle all the stimuli and the uncertainty. So actually it's sort of really a universal theme.
Absolutely it is. No, it is. Yeah. There are those who spend most of their life indoors, and there are others who want to have adventures.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jazz modern, right here.
Yes.
Wait a minute, let me put these here.
Jazz modern is a flexagon, and it's really kind of a neat
Can you hold it up so the pattern shows? Yes.
So with this
if you can look at the camera, there you'll see. Okay. If you'll look at the monitor, good. That's it. That shows. So every time Carolyn moves it, there's a new pattern that you can see. Ta-da!
Ta-da! I also made space. This is a flexagon. It's called Jazz Modern because it's the original name for the Art Deco period of design, which I absolutely love. And so these are all patterns from the Art Deco era, and they all come together into one module or whatever.
And you said you do this with your grandchildren too?
Yes, I do, yeah. And I made an inset here where you can look inside and see women of that era and dressed in their, I love the designs of that.
That's great.
Time as well.
Now,
but
we need to think about...
The trick here was to get all the patterning to come together as one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We need to think about what we want to talk about because the time is fleeting by.
Yeah.
You investigated New England cemeteries because you came from Canada and wanted to know more about early U.S., right?
Well,
but I'll give you 1 minute for that because there's all this other
1
stuff.
minute, okay. Well, basically, I became naturalized as a U.S. citizen in the late 90s, and at the same time, I was involved with a collaborative exhibition with 3 other artists, and it was called Country of Souls, which was investigating death and dying issues.
A Country of Souls, Death and Dying, okay.
Yeah, and so we went to a lot of cemeteries to look at the Puritan tombstone imagery, which is absolutely dissolving away.
Okay.
And it's gorgeous. And I discovered it, and I was, for myself as a new U.S. citizen, I was really happy to make that connection.
That's great. Just lastly about the book art, you have a book in the National Museum of Women in the Arts in Washington, D.C.,
yes,
which is not hard to get to. It's a short walk from the mall. And when I visited Washington with some of my college friends a few years ago, One of my friends said that her favorite museum, her favorite experience in Washington was going to the National Museum of Women in the Arts, because it is quite wonderful. There is so much there to take in.
To honor women as well.
Yes.
By the way, I'd like to mention this is in the Smithsonian.
Aha, okay, good. All right, let's spend a minute or two on the fact that you started out as a nurse and here you are today as an artist.
Yes. Well, in my era, in the 50s and 60s, it was pretty much just known that you needed to really concentrate on making a living, which boiled down to a secretary, nurse, or teacher. And so, and my parents had 5 children. They could not afford to send us to college. So I chose nursing, and in that program, I paid for my room and board as I was being trained as a nurse. Those programs no longer exist. So that's what I did. But deep in my soul, I always wanted to make art, and I did, even when I was a kid. I was like the class artist, you know, when I was, yeah. So as soon as I could get back to it, I started taking classes. And the first one was the New Hampshire League of Craftsmen.
Okay.
In 1970, I took silk screening.
And then eventually, fast forwarding, you decided to get your MFA, right?
Yes.
Which is the Master of Fine Arts.
Yes.
And it is the terminal degree in art, which would allow you to teach in any college or university in the country, if you chose to do so. You have taught at Castleton.
Yes.
Let's go on to the artwork. Unstill Lifes. This is what you did as a part of your MFA, is this right?
It came out of my experience at Bard College because I was trained as a painter with oil paints. And so I concentrated for a long period of time on painting naturally when I got out. And I liked the idea of putting the images on a vertical surface and then seeing the perspective and how they interact, and then they kind of tilt into the viewer's experience as well.
Yes. It's hard to describe unless you see it. In City Hall in Rutland, there is now an exhibit of your work, and quite a number are the Unstill Lifes, the big paintings, right? How long will they be there? Until when?
I think maybe to the end of September.
That's what I think. I think September 30th sticks in my mind. All right. Huatulco?
Huatulco.
Okay, is the name of one. Flea Market is another. And would you like to say something about either one of those?
Only that I like to randomly select objects for the still lifes from experiences that I have just wandering around, going to flea markets, or we traveled to Mexico, then I would pick up some fabric or whatever and use it. I don't plan too much ahead of time, I just let things sort of happen.
So you have the object, you have the fabric, and then you put them together.
I have to glue gun the objects so that they hang.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's interesting.
Yes.
Okay, so now on to another phase. You have different chapters in your art life, in your the story of your art life, the book of your art life. Works on paper, print-based, called Dry Point, and this is done with something called flashing, which is...
Well, just to go back a little bit, I took a 1-week session down in Bennington College during the January plan from Art New England, and I learned this fantastic printing method that was fiber-based, water-based, fiber-based, and then etching ink, oil-based. Then they resist each other. And I was painting up until then, and then when I found this method, which I thought was absolutely fantastic, I kind of switched over and said, I'm going to do this until I don't like it anymore. And so I took a small 2-day course over at Ava Gallery to learn how to do dry point, and that was on plexiglass, which was kind of cumbersome. So at some point I segued over to flashing, which is the flashing material that you use for construction. I can't remember exactly how I did that, but I use a Dremel, an automatic Dremel, so you can save your hand from grinding away. And actually the Dremel, because it's machine driven, you can't be way precise. And so
and you like that?
I like that.
Yes.
Exactly. So once you've made the images on this flashing,
and there's a piece of flashing down at the bottom of this set, I guess you would call it. You can't really see the detail, but Missy will insert a piece so that you can better see it.
So they're grooves. That's what I've made
Right.
all these grooves, and then I take an old credit card and I put etching ink into all the grooves, so make sure it's all filled up, and then wipe off the surface, and then dampen the BFK Reeves paper that goes on top of it, and the whole thing goes into the press like a sandwich, and then
you have lines or whatever it is.
The ink releases onto the paper.
Right.
That's the beginning.
And I hope that's comprehensive.
True.
All righty. We Knock 'em Down Key is one of the ones that we looked at.
Well, all of those that you were looking at there, Turtle 6 and Knock 'em Down Key, are print-based with the dry point method I was describing, and then once that is done, then I put layers of collage, or I do pencil.
You have a good time.
I have a good time.
I know. I
and
really
so
think
then each one is individual. It's not a series.
Right. When
And
people hear the word print, they think of
They
something
do.
made over and over, but
They do.
This,
No.
that isn't what this is.
This is one of a kind.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, on clayboard. If you will explain the word in one or two sentences,
I
and then
don't really
talk
know.
about perhaps Petronia and the two smaller works that we saw.
Well, I just saw someone using clayboard at an arts festival, basically.
What's clayboard?
I don't really know. It's
Okay.
something that artists use and has a 2-inch depth.
Right.
You can do a lot with clayboard. You can draw on it, paint, but I did collage on the clayboard.
Right.
And then I varnished it to make sure it was protected.
And then you painted the wood around
Yeah.
the surface that you had worked on.
Yeah.
And the wood is about 2 inches
Yeah.
thick,
You can
and
get
you don't then need to mat and frame
Well,
or do
yeah.
anything else.
That was the impetus, actually, is I just really got tired of paying a lot of money for framing.
Yes.
Because
I'm tired of that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And I'm working now, like when I get things framed, I used UV glass.
Right.
And of course that costs more. So I just thought I'm going to try a different venue, different
Yes.
approach to this.
And then when you're finished, you're finished. You don't have to take it somewhere and have somebody else do something
Right.
to it, mat it and
Right.
frame it.
And that was a series. I work in series.
Petronia, let's talk about that. That was a big work collage on clayboard.
Yeah, it's
You said it's about a crazy section of Key West where what goes on?
It's in the Bahamian section of Key West, which is
Okay.
now getting a little more groovy
All right.
and tony, but it has,
Well, the artwork's groovy.
yeah, and it's a little people, chickens all over the place. Sometimes chickens get caught in your bike, and you can, you can fall.
No, I don't know, but anyway.
Just a lot of music, nice kind of fun restaurants that don't require you to sit down and be formal. A lot of bike riders, like I said, and music, and very friendly people. And there's always stuff
And
happening.
dancing at night in certain
Yeah.
pubs, or they're not called pubs.
So,
but
and the main
certain
street
places.
is called Petronia.
Ah,
They actually have a restaurant there called Death by Chocolate.
oh,
So it gives you an idea. So a lot of my work is based on like an experience, like going
yes, yeah.
to the Bahamian village or going to Knock 'em Down Key, which is a key in the Gulf of Mexico.
And for some reason, Picasso just jumped into my mind. He, as you're saying, he responded to whatever came along in his life.
Yeah.
And that's what real artists do.
Oh.
They don't put it off. They respond and they make art based on
Well,
something
they're
that happened
triggers.
or they
They're
saw.
triggers. Yeah, like the dragonfly was there.
Okay, let's go on.
The dragonfly was there on the tennis court, and my husband brought it home, and he said, "Look at it's beautiful." So I put it up on a post and just left it there for a while.
It is beautiful.
It is.
It is.
It's so delicate. And so at some point I just looked at it and said, well, I'm just going to do a series of dragonflies. So there always has to be that kind of contact trigger thing for me.
And you said that you used essentially the same dragonfly image in each of the artworks, but you did something different.
I did.
And how many of those did you do?
I think I did about 12. I only have one left now.
Okay.
Yeah. I approached it differently.
All right. That sounds like a good idea. I could do that. Okay, monotype, barn dance, a country of souls. This may be going back to when you were going to cemeteries. I don't know.
Yes.
Mustard seed 2.
Yes. That is a series that I did. Where actually I kind of thought it was cool to not work with the rectangle anymore. I was working with a big wedge on this side and then kind of collaging in images for a print and then printing the whole thing so it's all one when you pulled off the paper. But I left, it wasn't a rectangle, so I thought that was kind of neat. But I did a series.
Well, what was it? I mean, some sort of irregular shape that you just...
Yes, yes. Kind of like Elizabeth Murray, that she would work with irregular canvases.
I don't know Elizabeth Murray. There are a lot of artists I know.
Yeah.
So did you, what were you working on then?
Well, that was specifically for the Country of Souls.
Okay, all right.
And the imagery comes from the Puritan image, tombstone imagery, which is beautiful.
Puritan tombstone imagery. That might be something interesting for people to Google. When you showed me a book, I thought to myself, I've seen that before, I don't know where, but it is very interesting, no question.
Once you identify it, then you can really look for it in the cemetery, but it's not that easy to see.
Depends how far back the tombstones go in a
but
cemetery that you might be in.
We have a lot of history here.
Right. So. Mustard seed 2. Oh, by the way, that was Turtle 6. Was Turtle 6 the 6th turtle, or
probably?
And is Mustard seed 2 the second mustard seed?
Yeah.
Okay, it is.
I mean, I've done a lot of work around turtle imagery because I feel sorry for them.
Yes.
They're clunky, archaic animals that are just being knocked over and bounced around, and they eat. They think it's jellyfish, and they're eating all these plastic bags and getting all kinds of digestion problems. And where we are in the Keys, there is a turtle hospital that is run by vets, and it's all voluntary, and it's the only one in the United States. So we go there every once in a while, and they give like lectures about all the turtles that are endangered, and big. You can see the images. You know, sometimes they have like a loggerhead, and it's huge on. Like the skeleton of a loggerhead. So I just fell in love with the turtles.
So are these people you're talking about, are they working with individual turtles that...
Yes, they're rescuing them.
Are they doing anything about what the turtles are eating, the trash that shouldn't be where it is?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of educational stuff going on, but still, people are boaters, and they throw stuff over the water, over the boat.
And you can only do so much.
Yeah.
You can educate.
And then they get the little hooks, fishing hooks in their throats as well.
Gosh.
And then they get the propellers of the boat sometimes that will put, devastating actually cuts into their legs and their carapace.
Are these the same turtles who lay their eggs and
They're
then
kind
go
of
away?
defenseless.
Are the turtles you're talking about the kind that lay eggs and then go back into the ocean?
Actually, we have a situation right here in Rutland where we have a snapping turtle. My husband saw the snapping turtle laying eggs right on our property.
Woo!
And so right about now, we're looking, and we're going to put a camera on it. I have a game camera. Let's see if we can see the little turtles coming out of the soil, and then they'll go right to the creek. Hopefully they make it.
I didn't know that happened here.
I didn't either.
I knew because of a television show I watched a long time ago about the turtles near the ocean, but I didn't know what you're talking about.
I didn't either. I told someone, said, "Oh yeah, there's snapping turtles all over." So I didn't know.
No, I've never seen one here. You have gone from one body of work to another. You may not know the answer to this question, but I'll ask it anyway. Do you have any idea of what you might decide to do next?
Yes.
Or if you might change somewhat what you're doing with the book art?
The book arts are really strong with me right now in terms of motivation, and what I love about the book art is that I only make books when I have something I really want to say, and so there's no pressure. But I do have something I want to say about the catamount, the mountain lions, and I have been following information and talking to the museum director in Barrie, because they have information about the catamounts, plus they also have a taxidermy catamount I want to go and visit. And of course I have to get his permission to print a story that took place in the 1800s, the you know, seeing the catamount, like actually telling a story about how they saw him and what he did. And so I'm working on gathering information right now.
And so
I want to put
you think that maybe when you go to Key West, that will be one of the things?
It will be.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to put it in a tunnel book, which means you look into a space with depth, and that's where you would probably see it. I have seen a catamount. You
have? Where?
Out of my studio window.
Well, that's what I just wondered. I mean,
yes.
You live near the woods.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, and I couldn't believe it at first, and then people said, "Oh no, you saw a bobcat."
Right.
And I said, "Oh no, I didn't," because now I know the difference. Yeah. So I want it to be sort of secretive in the tunnel book, where you have to look through all these transparent papers, and then you'll find it. And I want to.
That sounds like fun. It would be. It sounds to me like it would be fun to walk through, but you're not going to do that. This is book art.
Yeah, actually, that is an idea, though, to make them
to discover
to make a book that big that you would walk through.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Carolyn Shattuck, your website is shattuckgallery.com. Very simple.
Very simple.
And there's another Carolyn Shattuck
Yes.
who is not alive anymore. No. So if you go online and you are looking at her work, that isn't shattuckgallery.com.
Right.
Anything else you would like to say about what you have done or what you might do? We've got a minute.
I feel very fortunate that I'm always engaged in some way.
Yes.
With the art in whatever venue I choose, but I'm really lucky that I have that, because and even if I did, for example, think I had some kind of block, I don't acknowledge it, and I learned this in grad school. You just go back to what makes you feel good about, say, painting or whatever.
That's a great way
to end. And so you don't think of it as a block, and then you work your way out of it.
Also, you're thinking ahead about what you're going to do. You may not be doing it now, but you're
I'm gathering information in my head.
Okay, Carolyn, thank you so much for coming. Enjoyed it.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you so much for watching.